The current situation has brought many long-lasting changes for businesses. Digital transformation is moving ahead in full steam. We've all seen the memes doing the round. Who brought about digital transformation at your workplace? Was it the CEO, the CIO, or COVID-19? Jokes apart. These changes are having large impact on the way we run our businesses. What does this mean for local manufacturing? Is this going to increase local employment? What about unmanned processes such as using drones for delivery or using robots or enterprise IoT on the factory work floor? What about global supply chains? We've been discussing some of these questions with Dr. Anand Agarwal, Group CEO of STL, in this show. Hi, Anand. Welcome to the show, our future series.
Hi, Joey.
So the last time we met, we spoke about the future of internet. This time round, we'll be talking about the future of business models. So let's begin. The big news on the front of business technology is Reliance Jio attracting an investment of over $10 billion in just about a month. This is extremely interesting. While on the one hand, they want to use this to bring down their debt, on the other, they will be launching innovative digital platforms at scale, like JioMart with WhatsApp payments. This is not dissimilar to what Alphabet and Alibaba have done in the past. In this context, what do you think is the future for large technology businesses?
Jio started off as a good connectivity platform. Post that, what started playing out was the applications. First and foremost, very simple application was just voice. People connected to people, creating a thin layer of internet on it. And then you start putting in all the applications on it. What Jio is trying to do right now, what Amazon is doing in a major way, what Google is doing behind the platform, you have a full infrastructure where all this information becomes ubiquitous. All the technology companies are bifurcating this part. So you would have a Amazon e-commerce platform as one and Amazon Web Services another. Jio platforms as one and Jio towers and Jio fiber and Jio networks as another. Azure is one platform and Microsoft Office and 360 and everything else is another. So clearly you see at one end you have large applications which are B2C applications. Behind that you have a very strong core infrastructure which is managing, manipulating information and data. And that's what's becoming the big intellectual property of all technology companies, that you own a large infrastructure for data management and you have great applications which are customer facing and which are extremely, extremely agile in terms of how they move around.
Talking of digital transformation, STL was amongst the first few companies to have a CXO level position of a transformation officer. The transformation office at STL uses data science and digital platforms to accelerate the company's digital transformation journey. While STL has been very fortunate to have been ahead of the curve, a lot of smaller companies have not been. In this context, what do you think is the future of digital transformation for businesses?
This is extremely, extremely important. As I keep saying that, don't do digital for the sake of doing digital or because it is cool to have a chief transformation or a chief digital officer, but you cannot anymore do without it. Because it's now becoming a clear value proposition for the customer and clear differentiation from the competition. When we started with our journey, we started looking at which areas of our customer journey can be transformed. And that's why we are calling it a transformation office, where digital is a tool and not saying that it is digital transformation. So we are looking at transformation of processes, making processes lean and agile, looking at areas where you can have certain things done with robotic automation, looking at things which you can do with a very good level of decision support through data analytics. So the idea here is to create a very high degree of very well-defined customer experience, a very high degree of repeatability, a very high quality decision support system. The business intelligence framework put on that leads to that decision support system. And that helps the company becomes very agile and makes the whole control loop extremely fast. You are doing business process re-engineering as you go along. You are developing and operating. The DevOps framework is applying everywhere. So I see this interface between the software and hardware world, between the digital and the physical world, being clearly the way to go moving forward.
As we have seen, global supply chains, international trade, and production have been severely impacted. Forecasting models haven't kept up as they depend on historical data for future predictions. Deliveries have been impacted. At the same time, a lot of governments are talking about protectionist regimes. In this context, how do we make our global supply chains less complex, more nimble, and more agile? What is the future of global supply chains?
When you think of that question, you got to start thinking of multiple dimensions. One dimension is, was the current situation in anybody's prediction model or forecasting model itself? The second area essentially is more geopolitical. The third thing is essentially what leads to people sort of buying or hoarding of stuff. And that is more to do with psychology and behaviors. So I won't take into cognizance the last 2-3 weeks scenario, especially on areas like toilet paper in Walmart, etc., to kind of start thinking that is the supply chain model broken. The good aspect is that things are still working in a macro sense in terms of food, grain, etc. You had a 2-week period where the personal protection equipment, etc., was not there, but then it sort of moved on. If I start thinking of it in a mid to long term perspective, things which are large volume, which are high scale, which will be produced by people. Volume will start prevailing there, where people will produce in masses. They will have extremely agile workflows and process flows, so that any shifts in design can be applied, very much similar to what current EMS companies do. And at the same time, a very a disruptive aspect on the supply chain or manufacturing would be a distributed manufacturing model, which will start happening through things like 3D printing. So a lot of stuff which are more specialized, like critical aircraft parts, etc., which people kind of keep with themselves, anticipating some sort of problem statement. All those will start getting printed locally with 3D printing. The predictability of the supply chain is only getting better by the day. 5 years ago, nobody would have imagined that you would order from a high-tech mobile phone to predict when they will exactly come from, say, some of the handicraft stuff coming in from villages, something coming from small towns. But you're able to collate, consolidate, and predict in a very effective manner as to when they will come. Overall, I feel that the supply chains are only getting better, the logistics is getting better.
Let's move from customer commitment to customer experiences. Do you see a shift happening in the way sales, marketing, and customer-facing teams now interact and engage with their customers? While digital is a little bit easier in B2C, what is the future of digital for B2B? Will CEOs now be much more demanding on ROI? What is the future of customer experience?
Absolutely. Not many companies are purely B2B and without having a B2C interaction. Even if it's a purely B2B company, it's becoming B2B2C company. Accountability of the original company also becomes towards the consumer. Everything is now rated. You get out of a Uber, you have to rate the driver. Before you get off the flight, a survey would come. And that aspect actually feeds into the supply chain. In a B2B environment, it is happening through mechanisms like Net Promoter Scores. Things like voice of customer, Net Promoter Scores, etc., used to be done at an extremely low frequency. But right now, you're running pulse surveys even in a B2B environment for every dispatch. So the feedback loop, because of digital, is instantaneous, and the correction loop that is expected is also extremely fast. Everyone is working for the ultimate consumer experience.
Pankaj, you've been working with very large organizations and doing virtual hackathons. What is that and what's your experience then?
I'm really glad you talk this part. Sometimes you are constrained to do something, and because of that constraint, a really great and efficient thing starts happening. Over the last 6 weeks or so, with three large customers in North America and Europe in Asia Pac, we have been doing these hackathons or interaction, very deep collaborative interaction using the digital platforms. For us as a company as well as at the customer end, if we had tried doing this physically or in the world earlier, it would have taken months, and then the quality of the interaction would not have been as deep as it has been now. You are able to get global teams together. Earlier, we used to think that every region we need to have a full-fledged sort of a team which can do sales, which can do technology, which can do application engineering, which can do customer services. Now we are thinking extremely seriously that we don't need to do that. There would be a team which interfaces with the customer at a local level in terms of really knowing them, building relationships. But anything that requires a greater collaboration on the solution side, on the technology side, on the logistics side, we create a center of excellence. And the center of excellence of 7 people may be at different parts in the world, but they come together and they collaborate. I very seriously believe that this is here to stay.
I can think of a framework for this: 3 E's: expertise, effectiveness, and efficiency.
Yes, absolutely. It's effective, it's efficient, and all the experts on every side can come very fast. So the whole thought process of region and transportation has completely disappeared.
What about the China question? Companies are talking about diversifying their manufacturing. Some are talking about moving operations away from China. Apple, for instance, is talking about doing more of iPhone manufacturing from India now. What does this mean for the future of countries like India, which offer a technology capability? What is the future of Make in India?
There is a China question, which is a geopolitical question. I see the India opportunity in a very different manner. The India opportunity is largely facilitated by the Indian market itself. The Indian market provides a great platform, whether it is the geo investments, whether it is Amazon coming into India, whether it is Apple now wanting to set up a manufacturing ecosystem in India. They are all coming in for Indian market. Anyone who comes to India is now coming to India as a critical mass of the marketplace. And at the same time, then the experience of doing business in India, manufacturing in India, developing in India, research in India, we have great relationships with customers globally. They are looking at us being their channel for the Indian market as well. So the relationship is getting more and more symbiotic. And I see this as a big inflection point for India to take off, and I'm extremely optimistic and hopeful about that.
Thank you, Anand. Thank you for your time, and I'll meet you again for the next in the series for this show soon.
Totally. Thank you.